the sweet mix-up under the Rocky Mountains. On an early autumn evening, warm yellow light filtered through the blinds onto the floor of an apartment in downtown Denver. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, my fingers nervously tugging at the hem of my cream-colored dress. My heart fluttered like a caged rabbit, so fast it felt like it might jump out of my chest. My phone screen was still lit, displaying Ethan White's last message, "I'm almost downstairs." But every second of waiting felt like an eternity. Suddenly, the familiar honk of a Ford F-150 pickup truck echoed from below. It was the new car Ethan had picked up just last week. My heart skipped a beat. I grabbed my denim jacket from the couch and raced downstairs, nearly tripping over the edge of the rug as I passed the living room. "Lillian! Why are you running so fast? The baked apple pie will get cold." Mom poked her head out of the open concept kitchen, oven mitts still on her hands, eyeing me in confusion. "Mom, I'm going out to meet a friend," I called over my shoulder, yanking open the apartment door. There, parked by the curb, was the black pickup. The window rolled down, and Ethan appeared, wearing a light gray flannel shirt with the cuffs casually rolled up to his forearms. His hair was neatly styled but not stiff, nothing like the cold, distant product director I'd seen at Denver Tech earlier that day. He smiled at me, a faint, barely noticeable nervousness in his eyes. "Get in. I'm taking you somewhere nice." I slid into the passenger seat, my fingers unconsciously twisting the edge of my jacket. I didn't dare look up at him for a long time. The only sound in the car was the country music playing on the radio, until Ethan broke the silence. "Actually, I knew your name was Lillian the day of your interview." I jerked my head up, my eyes wide as saucers. "How did you know?" "It was right there on your resume," he said, struggling to hold back a laugh as his fingertips tapped lightly on the steering wheel. "When you talked about how your user operations plan boosted the client's retention rate by 30%, your eyes lit up, like stars over the Rocky Mountains. You looked so cute." My cheeks burned instantly. So he'd seen every awkward moment of me fumbling with my documents during the interview. "Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" I pretended to glare at him, but I couldn't help smiling. "I wanted you to figure it out yourself," he said, reaching over to ruffle my hair. The warmth of his palm seeped through my strands, making my heart race even faster. The car slowly pulled away from the city, heading toward the Platte River Trail. Ethan held my hand as we walked along the wooden path. The evening breeze carried the coolness of the river, mixed with the scent of barbecued meat drifting from the lawns nearby. Finally, I mustered up the courage to tug gently at his sleeve. "That $30 million investment call, was it actually meant for me?" He froze for a second, then burst into laughter. It echoed along the riverbank. "You mean that my mom messed up? She snuck a look at my phone, mixed up your brother Noah's number with yours, and thought I was dating a boyfriend. You know how worried she is that I'm too busy at work to make time for dates." Everything clicked. So that's why Noah had rushed to me last week, panicking, saying, some boss named White called the wrong number and said he wanted to invest $30 million in me. I couldn't help laughing at the memory of Noah fumbling to hang up the phone back then. "Does your mom know the truth now?" "She does. She even baked blueberry cookies yesterday, and said she wants to invite you and Noah over for dinner this weekend to apologize properly." Ethan stopped walking, turning to look at me seriously. The street lamp's glow reflected in his eyes. "Lillian, I'm sorry you were confused by this mix-up for so long." I shook my head, standing on my tiptoes to kiss his cheek. The soft touch made my heart race even faster. It's never too late to know the truth. Meanwhile, back at our house in suburban Denver, Noah was sighing at his phone. On the screen was a message from Ethan. "My mom said she's inviting you and your family over for barbecue this Saturday noon. She wants to apologize to you." Noah swallowed, turning to my dad, who was watching a football game on the couch. "Dad, do you think I should make up an excuse not to go? Last time I told him, you have the wrong person, I don't run a startup." It was so embarrassing. Dad set down his beer can and rolled his eyes. "Why run? He just wants to apologize, not eat you. Besides, the White's barbecues are famous in the neighborhood, they're delicious." Yeah, and if you dare skip it, I'll send Ethan that photo of you in the cheerleading dress from high school. Mom walked out of the kitchen carrying a plate of freshly cut fruit, teasing him. It was a photo from when Noah had been forced to wear a dress for a charity fundraiser performance. Noah's shoulders slumped in defeat. He resigned himself to replying to Ethan, "Okay, we'll be there on Saturday." Saturday came quickly. Our family drove to the Cherry Creek neighborhood where Ethan lived. His house was a single-family home with a lawn, and a barbecue grill was already set up in the yard. Ethan's mom, Aunt Martha, was flipping steaks in an apron, and the air was filled with the aroma of butter and grilled meat. As soon as we walked into the yard, Aunt Martha greeted us warmly, pulling me into a big hug. "Lillian, Noah, come on in. Ethan said you like corn, so I made grilled sweet corn just for you too." Noah still looked nervous around Aunt Martha, his hands fidgeting as he tried to find a place to put them. Ethan, though, quietly walked over to me. When no one was looking, he slipped his hand into mine, giving my palm a gentle squeeze, a silent reassurance. During dinner, Aunt Martha kept piling barbecued meat onto Noah's and my plates, apologizing repeatedly. "I'm so sorry about last time. It was all my fault, I was in such a hurry, I didn't check the number before calling. I must have scared you, Noah." "Aunt Martha, it's okay, it's in the past now." Noah quickly waved off her apology, his cheeks turning pink. It was his first time being fussed over by such a warm-hearted elder, and he wasn't used to it. Dad took a sip of iced beer and smiled. "Honestly, we're partly to blame too. Noah and I never talk much about work, so he thought it was a scam call. That's how this whole mix-up happened." As the meal went on, the atmosphere grew more and more relaxed. Noah and Ethan sat on lounge chairs in the lawn, chatting about the Denver Broncos football game, their laughter drifting over every now and then. Mom watched the scene, leaning over to whisper to me, "Look how well they're getting along now. We shouldn't rush Noah to go on blind dates anymore, let him take his time." I nodded, gazing at the outline of the Rocky Mountains in the distance, my heart filled with warmth. On Monday morning, as soon as I walked into the office, my colleagues swarmed around me. "Lillian, what's really going on between you and Director Ethan? I saw him drop you off at work last week." Emily from HR leaned in, her eyes full of curiosity. Before I could answer, Ethan walked out of his office. He came straight over to me, slipping his arm around my waist naturally, and smiled at everyone. "She's my girlfriend." The office erupted in gasps. No one had expected the usually serious product director to be dating the new user operations specialist. Cheers and congratulations followed soon after. In the days that followed, our lives were filled with laughter and joy. Every morning, Ethan drove me to work, stopping at a coffee shop in downtown Denver to buy me a hot latte. Every evening after work, we'd go grocery shopping at the community supermarket, then cook together at home. He handled the grilling, I made vegetable salads, and sometimes we even tried baking apple pie using Mom's recipe. Noah often brought over Liam, the new friend he'd met, for dinner. Sometimes the four of us would play Fortnite together, and on weekends, we'd drive to Rocky Mountain National Park for camping. Once the four of us went camping in the Rockies. As evening fell, Ethan and Liam prepared the barbecue by the campfire, while Noah and I sat on a mat in front of the tent, watching the snow-capped mountains in the distance. "Lillian, you look really happy with Ethan," Noah said suddenly, his eyes soft with relief. "I used to worry you'd be lonely in Denver with no friends." I leaned my head on his shoulder and smiled. "With you, Ethan, and Liam, how could I be lonely?" The campfire crackled in the distance, and Ethan looked over at me, his gaze as gentle as the moonlight resting on the snow-capped peaks. One weekend in late autumn, Ethan said he wanted to take me somewhere special. He drove me to Bonneville Basin in the Rockies, a vast grassland with a clear view of the distant snow-capped mountains. When I got out of the car, I gasped. The grassland was strung with small fairy lights, twinkling with warm yellow glow. At the far end, there was a heart shape made of wild sunflowers, and in the middle, a delicate wooden box. Ethan took my hand, leading me slowly to the center of the heart. Then, suddenly, he dropped to one knee. My heart jumped into my throat. I covered my mouth, my eyes instantly welling up with tears. He pulled a velvet box from his pocket. When he opened it, a sapphire ring glistened in the sunlight. The stone's color was exactly like the water of the Colorado River. Lillian, his voice trembled slightly, but it was firm. From the first time I teamed up with you to beat that game level, to staying up till 3 a.m. listening to you talk about the pain of being bullied in college, to seeing the light in your eyes at your interview, I knew you were the one I'd been waiting for my whole life. Will you marry me? Memories flashed through my mind like a movie. The tissue he'd handed me when we first met in the company pantry, the hot coffee he'd left on my desk during overtime, the cold medicine and steaming chicken soup he'd brought when I was sick. Every moment was crystal clear. I nodded vigorously, tears streaming down my cheeks. Yes. I will. Ethan stood up, slipping the ring onto my finger, and pulled me into a tight hug. The distant snow-capped mountains, the fairy lights on the grassland, and his warm embrace, all of it made me feel infinitely happy. The next morning, I wore the ring to work. As soon as I walked into the office, my colleagues surrounded me again. Wow, Lillian, that ring is beautiful. Emily gushed, her eyes full of envy. I smiled and nodded, my heart brimming with sweetness. Ethan proposed to me in the Rockies yesterday. The office erupted in cheers, and everyone offered their congratulations. Ethan walked out of his office, saw me in the middle of the crowd, and smiled softly. He came over, wrapping his arm around my waist. Thank you all. Once we set a wedding date, we'll definitely treat everyone to dinner at the winery in Cherry Creek. On the other side of town, Noah had been busy lately too. Liam said he wanted to take Noah to meet his parents, so Noah had dragged me into trying on countless outfits the night before, complaining that one shirt was too formal, another hoodie too casual. He'd tossed and turned until midnight, still undecided. What do you think of this one? Noah held up a navy blue Oxford shirt, turning in front of the mirror, his voice tight with nerves. I leaned against the doorframe, laughing. It looks great. Liam's parents are farmers, they like laid-back people. You don't need to be this nervous. How can I not be nervous? It's meeting the parents. Noah ran a hand through his hair, his face filled with anxiety. What if they think I'm too shy and don't like me? I walked over, patting his shoulder. Don't worry. You're so sincere, they'll love you for sure. On the day of the visit, Liam took Noah to his family's farm in Colorado Springs. The farm was covered in sunflowers, and a wooden dining table sat in the yard. Liam's dad was polishing a hunting rifle there, while his mom picked fresh tomatoes. Dad, Mom, this is Noah, Liam said, taking Noah's hand and smiling as he introduced him. Nice to meet you, sir, ma'am, Noah bowed nervously, his hands still fidgeting. Liam's dad set down the rifle and smiled. No need to be so formal, sit down. The cookies are still warm from the oven. Liam's mom also put down her basket, taking Noah's hand and looking at him carefully. Such a good-looking young man, you can tell he's a kind soul. During lunch, Liam's mom kept piling food onto Noah's plate, asking him about his favorite dishes and hobbies. Noah gradually relaxed, telling them about his volunteer work at the Denver Library and his love for science fiction novels. When Liam's dad heard Noah liked camping, he excitedly shared stories of his own camping trips in the Rockies when he was young. The two hit it off instantly. In the afternoon, Liam took Noah for a walk around the farm. Sunlight filtered through the sunflower petals, warm and pleasant. My parents really like you, Liam said, taking Noah's hand and smiling. Noah's cheeks turned pink, and he looked down shyly. I like them too, they're so nice. Before long, we started planning our wedding. Ethan left most of the decisions to me, letting me arrange everything according to my preferences. I chose a winery at the foot of the Rocky Mountains as the venue, decorated with wild sunflowers and lavender, and asked Noah and Liam to be our groomsmen. On the wedding day, I wore a white wedding dress, walking arm in arm with Dad down the aisle toward Ethan. He stood there in a sharp black suit, his eyes filled with love, just like the way he'd looked at me the first time we walked along the Platte River Trail. When we exchanged rings, he held my hand tightly. Lillian, please take care of me for the rest of my life." I smiled and nodded, tears streaming down my face again. Noah, standing beside Ethan as a groomsman, had red eyes too. Liam stood in the audience, blowing Noah a kiss. When Noah saw it, his cheeks turned bright pink, but he couldn't help smiling. After the wedding, we went to Hawaii for our honeymoon. In our beachfront villa, Ethan held me as we looked out at the ocean. "Let's travel somewhere new every year, okay? Next year we'll go to Alaska to see the northern lights, and the year after that to Yellowstone to see the geysers." I leaned against his chest and nodded. "Sounds perfect. As long as I'm with you, anywhere is great." Not long after, Noah and Liam held a small engagement party, inviting their families and close friends. At the party, Liam took Noah's hand and said to everyone, "Thank you all for coming to mine and Noah's engagement party. I'll take good care of him forever." Noah was too moved to speak, he just held Liam's hand tightly. As the days passed, our lives were filled with happiness and sweetness. Every weekend, our four families would get together for dinner, sometimes at Ethan's house for barbecue, sometimes at Liam's farm for fruit picking, and sometimes we'd even go skiing in the Rockies together. Mom would watch us, smiling and saying, "Now I can finally rest easy, you've all found your happiness. I know our future will only get happier." Those past mix-ups and misunderstandings have become the most precious memories of our relationships, and the people around us are the most important beings in our lives. Just as the Rocky Mountains stand forever to the west of Denver, our love will remain strong and warm, always.